I have 1 hour to create a complete 3D Spider-Man animation. Once this 1 hour version is done, I will then create the same animation again, but in 100 hours, to see just how much better I can make it with a whole lot more time. I have a bunch of ideas to make this animation amazing, like using this automatic city generator. But first, we need to focus on this 1 hour animation because, well, the time is going down fast. I will not be able to create a super detailed Spider-Man model in this amount of time, so a very blocky version like this will have to be enough. This also includes his muscles. Without them, he would look a little too skinny, so I had to model those as well. Which might have not been the best idea, because now I have to spend extra time making sure that those look good as well. The body's done, and now we have, 21 minutes left. Okay, well, now it's time to work really fast. First, he needs a skeleton, so he can move and actually be animated. Next, the scene needs an environment, so I added a simple sky and some cubes in the background to look like skyscrapers. 10 minutes left and the whole thing hasn't even been animated yet. So to fix that, I added this random noise to Spider-Man and the camera to make him wiggle around a little bit, and also animated his head to look around like this. With 3 minutes left, all I really had so far was a red dude sitting there, so with the last few minutes left, I added a very rough version of his iconic eyes and... Did I spend too much time on Spider-Man's body? Maybe. But I think the final result looks pretty good. Now let's see if with 100 times the amount of time and a bunch of different advanced techniques, we can make this animation 100 times better. Just like last time, I started with the man himself. For this one, I looked around on the internet to see if I can find a nice model to download, because creating a model that looks good enough would take way too long. There were quite a few, some pretty good, some maybe a bit less, but in the end, I found 3 that I liked the most. 2 were actually recreations of the suits from the movies. The other one was the model from the PS4 games. I personally prefer the look of the game model, so I went with that one. It's already pretty detailed, but looking a little closer, the surfaces were a bit too smooth. So I added this leather texture to the blue parts of his suit and this dotted pattern to the red parts. Now he might look like a Lego baseboard, but I would say that makes him even cooler. What isn't so cool is that I already spent a whole 10 hours of my time just on this. Please don't ask how, okay? I don't want to talk about it. To finalize Spidey himself, I added a skeleton to him, which means he is ready to be animated. The first goal for this project was to create the MVP, the minimum viable product. For that, I need 3 things. One of them I already have, which is Spider-Man himself. The second thing is some skyscrapers for him to swing between. The main buildings I modeled manually to make them a bit more unique. For the other ones, I just used basic cubes since they are not as important. And once I have that, I can refine it as much as possible until the rest of the 100 hours are over. Now that Spider-Man is in his natural habitat though, the last thing missing is the actual animation. Since I already had a bunch of cool shots in mind, I started blocking those out first. For that, I used Robert over here. He helped me position the camera in a good spot and find the best place to put Spider-Man in each shot. And once all the main shots are in place, I can connect them all together by animating Spider-Man moving from one to the next. Don't worry, Robert. Maybe if you help me in a couple more projects, you can get your own at some point. For now, the focus stays on Spider-Man, and he is looking pretty good already. The rough animation is now in place. Well, the very, very rough animation. But with 54 hours left to go, this should look a lot better in the end. I have a bunch of techniques I wanted to use to turn this grid of cubes into a realistic living city, create accurate spiderwebs for him to swing on, and overall make his movements a lot smoother. So let's get into all of that right now, starting with Spider-Man himself. He is already animated, but his movements are very blocky because the transitions from one pose to the next are just plain missing. But that can be fixed pretty easily by enabling automatic interpolation. Well, maybe not that easily, but with a few more adjustments to the timing and some in-between poses to refine the movement, it looks pretty good now. The hardest part to figure out for this whole animation was actually how the Spider-Man should swing. It's the most important part of this whole animation, so if Spider-Man swinging doesn't look right, everything else doesn't really matter. I had a bunch of different techniques I tried, but in the end I used this technique by Peter France, where Spidey's movement basically is controlled by this curve. Out of all the techniques I tried, this one created the smoothest and natural looking movements. It wasn't perfect, but better than all the others I tried, so yeah, there you go. And now that Spider-Man's movements look good, it's finally time to make everything else look good as well. Starting with his web robes, or spider robes, whatever these are called. The easiest way to create them was actually with Blender's geometry nodes. It basically just takes a line or edge like this, replaces it with these hair curves to make it thicker, and displaces some of them even more. Now every edge that is in this collection automatically gets turned into web spider swingy robes. And with that done, we can finally get rid of these super boring cubes. It's finally time to refine the city. There were three main tools that I've used to completely transform this into a beautifully detailed New York City district. The first is the City Generator add-on. It takes a boring plane like this and turns it into a full apartment building with streets, cars, lights, and everything else you could ever think of. Using this, I was able to create a super detailed city in no time at all. I just had to create the street grid, and the add-on did all the rest for me.
I can see the moves 'cause they be sneaking. I don't answer calls when I'm in a meeting. Please don't hit my line when you feeling needy. Say you down bad, but I don't believe it.
But even though this add-on is meant to allow you to create whole cities, it had one big issue. Look at this cardboard box. Looks pretty cool. Now look at this one. Do you see a difference? This is the original box from the add-on, which has 16,952 triangles. This one has 594 triangles and looks almost identical. Imagine how much more powerful your PC has to be to load this box when it is scattered throughout the streets a couple dozen times. This add-on is amazing for creating super detailed city streets, but it's not really optimized enough yet to create super big cities like this. So I had to optimize all these models myself to turn my scene from this to this.
I got both hands wrapped around the game in a choke slam. It turned me from a kid into a grown man.
Why do the cars even have super detailed interior? You can't even see it.
Try to treat me like an outsider, I'm the outlier. Peel the wig off these pussies if they doubt fire. I'ma get rich off this even if my mouth wired till the wheels burn no matter how tired.
But even with this issue, I would still highly recommend this add-on. If I had to model all this myself, it probably would have taken at least 5 times as long. The other two are a bit simpler, but still very important. The first one is this atmosphere add-on. It allows you to create photorealistic lighting like this in just a couple of seconds. Just add the setup to your scene, select the preset, and you're done. There are even presets for Mars, Tatooine from Star Wars, or this retro wave sunset. And if you want, you can use these settings to refine the look of your scene even more. For my animation, I went with a simple sunny day. The last thing missing is something to add life to these streets. For that, I used this Procedural Crowds add-on. There are a bunch of ways you can use this, but I just created a few walk paths like this, and the add-on does the rest to add people following them. In the final animation, they won't be super noticeable, but it's still much better than having no people at all in the streets. And with those 3 add-ons, this boring grid of cubes turns into this super detailed city with cars on the streets and people on the sidewalks to make it feel more alive. And all of that only took 16 hours. If you want to get these add-ons for yourself, make sure to check out the links in the description. If you buy any of them through those, a portion of that money will actually go to me. So if you want to support me while also getting some great add-ons, make sure to use my affiliate links down below. The animation already looks pretty good now, especially compared to before, but I had a couple more ideas to make this look even better. The first thing are trees. The city generator can not only create buildings and streets, but also parks. So to add a little bit more variation into the city, I added one of these on each side. The next big thing is the horizon. Right now, it just looks like we're in a Minecraft skyblock world, but I didn't want to model an entire horizon with even more buildings. So instead, I just grabbed an image of a skyline of New York and used that. It's maybe not perfect, but definitely better than my other options. Next, to make Spider-Man feel a little less lonely in the sky, I also added some birds. These are just very simple models I created, which I then put into a geometry node system to create these dynamic bird flocks, which, you know, add just a little bit more detail to the sky. Or a bird cube of death if you're not careful. Now for the last finishing touches, I added a couple more small details to finish the animation. The first thing are these smoke planes. In my 100-hour Godzilla animation, I used them to create these rising smoke effects. This time I used them to add some smoke coming out of pipes and vents on the roof. It's a small detail, but can still make the city feel much more alive. I also placed this crane model a couple of times throughout the city, which I found on Sketchfab, and refined the tip of the skyscraper that Spider-Man lands on in the end. It looked very rough before, so this makes it look a lot better. And with that, the 100 hours are over. Is it 100 times better than the 1 hour version? Maybe not, but I'm still happy with how this turned out. Let me know what you think of the final result, and if you want to see another 1 versus 100 hour animation, also let me know what the next one should be about. I would love to hear your ideas.